Hello and welcome to Move Face Designs. In this video I'm going to show you how I thread paint one of my patterns. This is the Rocking Horse. It can be found on my website movefacedesignz.co.uk. This video goes along with my other video for collaging the Rocking Horse. Okay, so I've removed it off of my parchment paper. I've ironed it to my backing. My backing is a little bit larger at the moment because I was thinking that I might put this on a Christmas cushion, and because I'm not quite sure of the design of that cushion at the moment, what size exactly it's going to be, I've got quite a wide border on it so that I can trim it to whatever size I need to. I've also cut my batting. This happens to be an old mattress protector, so I thought I might as well use it. Basically, if you have a look, it's just got very small, very thin, man-made wadding in it. So yes, and it actually works very well. You could also use fleece. I've done that and I really quite like using fleece, but I just haven't got any at the moment. What I've done as well is I've cut it just a little tiny bit bigger than my actual design, because it does tend to shrink just a little bit when you're thread painting. I think it depends on how heavily you're going to do it, but I guess that I can always cut that off and trim it back afterwards. And then the next thing I've done is I have just put some pins through. They're quilting pins, they are just slightly bent. I have used spray adhesive before, and that's quite good. It just gets quite expensive, so I've decided just to use the pins, and especially for a smaller piece it doesn't tend to move quite so much, and once you get cracking on your thread painting it soon holds it down anyway. Right, so we are now all set up for the thread painting. I've chosen all of my colours. It just means that I don't need to keep getting up and running around, and I keep them in a basket next to my chair. What I prefer to use is this Coats Moon thread. It's not particularly expensive. It's a polyester thread and it comes in hundreds of colours. I've still not got every single colour there is. Okay, so that's what I prefer to use, and ordinarily what you should do is you should use the same colour in your bobbin as your thread. And the reason that you should do this is because if your bobbin thread shows at any time, then obviously you will end up with, if you've got blue for instance in your bobbin and you've got yellow on the top, you will end up with little blue dots everywhere. I'm very lucky, my machine doesn't do that, so I'm a little bit lazy, and in my bobbin I either usually have black, white or a neutral colour, and I tend to just, if I'm doing darks, then I put black in there and just crack on changing the top colour. And so I'm telling you the right way to do it, but I'm telling you how I do it. I've also got embroidery thread as well. I think it's Bro thread. My machine quite likes this as well, so if I haven't got the right colour in this but I have in my embroidery thread, then I don't differentiate between the two, then I'll just use this. But I absolutely prefer to use Coats, and I think my machine prefers that above anything else. So bonus really, it's quite a cost-saving thread, shall we say. It comes in all colours and my machine likes it, so that's great. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to start with my rocking horse. Because he's a rocking horse, he is going to be smooth, so I'm not going to do a mega amount of thread painting on that. I'm going to do quite a bit on the background, I think, and get a lot of detail in that. So let's get cracking. So my machine is all set up now with the right colour, and I am going to thread paint around my rocking horse. Ordinarily I wouldn't do that. If I'm doing an animal, I like to go with the flow of the fur or the hair or whatever. Obviously, this being a rocking horse, he's smooth. I'm going to be using this as a cushion, so every edge needs to be stitched down. So in this particular instance, I'm going to go round. Now I've already started going round. The reason I've had to do that is because I was singing my praises of my machine a little while ago, and when I came to start doing it, it decided it was going to play up. So I have tested it it's been okay, but I wanted just to get some stitching on here just to see whether it was working properly, and it is. So we can carry on now. Just got the last little bit to do along here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do that bit, because when I start doing the mane and everything else on here, it will hold that bit down anyway. Just trying to see where it goes. It just goes up to there and then finishes, so I think that's exactly what I will do. So, not sure whether you can see that, probably not. I've just gone around the edges of that piece. Luckily enough, I have the same colour in my bobbin as I do as the top one, purely because it's a neutral colour, so it just happened to be that particular neutral that I used to fill up my bobbin. Just trying to see if there's anything else that is the same colour as that. I don't think there is. Now, as far as the colours go, usually it's best to have the closest colour that you can, or a colour match if indeed possible, to your particular piece of fabric. If I haven't got the right colour, either in my coats or my embroidery thread, then what I would actually do is find something that was closest to. You probably in your stash won't have exactly all the right colours, and sometimes if it is just slightly off colour, it just enhances it a bit anyway. So I don't tend to worry too much. And obviously there will be parts that I want to stand out more, so I will then deliberately choose a colour that is perhaps the next shade up or down. So don't panic too much if you haven't got all the right colours. But as you go along, you'll buy more and more to match whatever, and then your stash will increase anyway. So just slow and steady, a nice pressure on your foot plate. This particular machine does regulate the speed that my needle goes up and down. It won't actually regulate my stitch length, because if I'm moving my fabric quicker, I will get a larger stitch. If I keep it in one spot, then obviously I'm going to get a smaller stitch. So even when people say that they have got a stitch regulator on their machine, I'm not so sure that it actually does do anything to their stitches. But this will regulate how quickly up and down my needle goes. I have now actually got my foot hard on the pedal, and it can go a lot faster than this. But because I've regulated it to go slower, if my foot is full down, it's not going to make any difference. It's not going to run away with me. So all I've done there is just a few rounds and rounds, really, just to highlight these spots on there, which obviously I will do in white in a bit. And then we'll do his bridle. See how we get on with that. Try to relax your shoulders a little bit. If you're all tense, you won't be able to get your quilt to move where you want it to move, and also you'll end up very sore at the end of it. So it's just a case of just backwards and forwards echoing. Now I know there's a darker piece in this particular piece here. I'm just going to put the needle over it now. I am going to still do that in the same colour. One, I think it would be quite nice, and two, I can't be faffed. It looks fine. It looks absolutely fine. I think sometimes you can go overboard. You'd be here for ages just changing your thread backwards and forwards. Having said that, people do their things different ways. I've just got a little bit more relaxed about things now. Obviously I want them to be nice, and it does make a difference. I mean, if it was a completely different colour, then obviously I wouldn't do it. but because it's red and it's supposed to be a little bit darker, I'm just going to go over the top. So that's just giving it a little bit of texture really. That's all I was doing, giving it a bit of texture. And I'm not sure whether this is quite right, the right red to do those on there. So what I usually do is I usually make sure my needle's free, and then I just pull it and have a little look. I think that is probably just a little bit too red to do that. I have got some that's this colour, and I think that's probably more fitting for that. So because I've still got the red in there, that little bit of red will wait. I will do the red pieces down here that I know are the same. Not going to bother too much with that. His little bow. I'll go around in a circle in the middle bit, because usually when you have a bow, that's what happens. And then I'll just go around the edges of that. And then this last little bit of red here, which is part of the parcel. So, and I shan't go too mad with that piece either, just secure that piece. Okay, so I think that's probably the red done now. Try and keep my hands out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Just a little bit of a zigzaggy down there. That makes sense. Now in theory, every time you start and stop your colour, you're supposed to have a long thread on it, and you are supposed to pull it through to the back and then tie it off. I just usually just go up and down in the same spot, so to me that's tying that off, and then I'll just carry on, do what I'm going to do. And then when I stop, I just do it again, so I'm tying it off again. And that's kind of how I do it. It just means that you don't have to stop with all these long pieces and be threading it backwards and forwards. Let's have a little look at this piece. Now I might be in a bit of trouble here. I think I might need to take that bit out. Let's see how we go. Trying to see, make sure I'm not in your way. So if I keep my hand there, I'm out of the way. It is quite difficult to try to stay out of the way. I'm generally used to doing it like this, but if I do it like this, you can't really see much. So. When you're doing something as fiddly as this, it will be a case of keep swapping your thread all the time. So I decided the next thing I was going to do was these yellow goldy colours. Now I've got two colours here, and neither of them are quite right. So I've got to choose really which one I'm going to use. Had I had something that was in between the two of those, it would have been perfect. I have got other yellows, but they're just too yellow. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plump for the darker one, and obviously because I'm doing what is supposed to be a mane and a tail, I'm still going to thread paint this as if it's an actual horse. So I think I'll do the tail first, and I'm going to just come round like that, really, and follow the shapes that I've already got there. So let's go. Come down, and then I'll just come back again. And I'll come down, and I'll come back again, and then I'm in the way of the white, so I'm going to have to cut that and go the other side of it. So I put my needle down the other side. I just think it'd be odd to have yellow over the top of the white. Come down again, but I'm going to sneak around the edge of that piece. That's it. And then I'm going to go down onto that piece there. Sneak up round it, go around the edge, and then back down again. You don't have to worry about cutting your thread. You don't even have to worry about it doing it without stopping. You can stop, you can take a breather, you can adjust your quilt, you can turn your quilt around. So I'm doing this all one way. If you were a little less confident about doing this, you could always turn your quilt, as long as the needle's down when you've stopped, you can always turn your quilt round and do it. So I can stop, I can check to see that I'm happy with my stitches. And I know it would be a bit of a nuisance, but if you've practiced and your stitches are a very similar size and not too small, you should be able to undo them. And it is a faff and it will take ages to do, but don't be disheartened, you can undo it. But I suppose that is one good thing about having your thread absolutely match your fabric, because a lot of the time if you do make mistakes while you're thread painting, it won't notice. So don't point it out to someone that you've made a mistake. They probably won't even notice. So I'm just really following the way that the horse would have its growth of the mane and tail. The other thing is, if you have got a slightly different colour thread, by going over some pieces of fabric that are slightly different shades, it just kind of ties it all into one and blends it a little bit more. So there we go, that's that piece. It's not perfect by any means, but it's okay, isn't it? And the thing is as well, you will make mistakes. I make mistakes as well. And like I say, one, I don't point them out. And two, it's all a learning curve. If I look at the first ones that I did my free motion on and look at what I'm doing today, there is a massive difference. So I don't tend to get too upset about anything that I've done wrong. I just think, okay, well, I need to learn from that and just take it as something that'll help me improve instead of getting all depressed about it. I think that's a good way to look at things. That's, you know, that's how you should learn. And it's decided it's not wanting to move. That is because the foot had gone underneath my fabric, so that wasn't moving. So there's a way round that. Obviously it didn't iron down properly, so I kept the iron out and I could iron it. But the quickest and easiest way to do it, which is a bit that went under there, is just pull it back. It's just a little glue stick. It is I know it's blue, don't panic, it does dry clear. And just stick it down. There's another piece there as well. So I find that quite useful to keep handy. So hopefully this time it won't get caught on there. Try again. Oh, that's it, and I can actually move the thing now. should have started this at the top really. In fact, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to start at the top just so that I can, it probably won't make any difference. We'll see in a minute. Yeah. So I'm going to spin this round and come this way now because everything else is suggesting that we go that way. So I'm just going to fill in that space there. That's it. It's a case of backwards and forwards really. A little bit of a curve. So I tend to do this slow and steady. There are other people that I've seen that do it as quickly as they can. It gives a slightly different effect. I think it kind of looks more like sketching, which is very effective. I quite like it. But I don't want mine to look like it's been sketched. So I just do it nice and slow and steady. And then I can be sure that I'm putting the needle really where I want it to go. And this last little bit here, this little forelock, I think that's what it's called. Okay, so there you can see now he's got a mane and he's got a tail. So what I think I'll do is I will continue to do this time lapse so that you're not getting bored of watching, but you can kind of see how I'm doing and where I'm going with it. And then when we get near the end, I will come back to you, and if there's anything that I feel that we need to talk about, for instance, how I'm going to do the lights, I'll come back and explain to you what I've done. Okay, let's get started then with that. So I've tried some of these starlets through there. Yeah, I don't think they look too bad. So here we go, all finished now. All I need to do now is to work out how I'm going to put together my cushion cover. I think it will probably be the size of the actual complete collage. It's just a case of fixing it all together. I think you'll agree this is something that we can all tackle, even if we're only just starting out on the journey of thread painting. This particular one hasn't been too taxing. We've just had to go around a few shapes and perhaps just fill in, like these pieces here, the odd wavy lines to actually fill in the shape. I think it's probably quite a good one to start learning your thread painting, and you'll still end up with a lovely work of art and hopefully something that you can be proud of. Well, thank you for spending time with me today. It's been great to spend some time with you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.